Thank you so much for joining us today for this chapter of time-hopping hero Ethan's First Leaps. We truly appreciate you taking the time to read along with us. Just a reminder that the English subtitles for this video are accurate, and YouTube offers some fantastic tools to enhance your learning. If needed, you can use the auto-translate function to view subtitles in your preferred language, Portuguese already provided on screen. You can also slow down the video playback speed if you'd like to listen more carefully. Thanks again for spending your valuable time with us. Enjoy the story.
Time-hopping hero, Ethan's First Leaps. Copyright 2025. Chunking to Fluency. Chapter 7. A Heavy Inheritance. The fluorescent hum of Eisenhower High School felt a universe away from the silent, time-bending mechanics of Mr. Abernathy's workshop. Billy Tipton and Ethan Pruitt, now 15 and navigating the labyrinthine hallways as freshmen, were an unlikely duo. The other kids still whispered, still stared, trying to reconcile the once bullied Ethan with the suddenly quiet, almost contemplative Billy, who walked beside him. Billy no longer lashed out. The aggressive spark in his eyes had been replaced by a quiet intensity, a wisdom that felt far too old for his 15 years. Ethan, ever the steady anchor, moved through the social currents with a quiet confidence that had blossomed since their shared adventures. Their friendship was a fortress built on a secret no one else could possibly fathom, and it made the everyday drama of cafeteria cliques and pop quizzes feel strangely inconsequential. Topeka stretched around them, familiar yet subtly altered through Billy's new eyes. He noticed the railway lines crisscrossing the city with a fresh pang, a silent echo of the bright-eyed engineer his father once was. After school, the boys often drifted towards the workshop, their haven from the teenage world. Mr. Abernathy was visibly frailer now. His steps were slower, punctuated by the rhythmic tap of a polished wooden cane, and his hands, once so nimble, sometimes trembled as he counted out change. Ethan often found him dozing in his worn armchair, the thin blanket perpetually over his knees, his gaze distant, lost in memories the boys could only guess at. "My joints are complaining more than usual, boys," Mr. Abernathy rasped one afternoon, rubbing a gnarled knuckle. "Doctor's even talking about a walker. Can you imagine?" He chuckled weakly, a dry, rustling sound. Billy, now a regular fixture behind the pawnshop counter, was becoming surprisingly adept. He sorted tools, priced old jewelry, and learned the art of a fair negotiation from Mr. Abernathy, who corrected him with gentle prods rather than sharp reprimands. Ethan, having spent years soaking up the trade, recognized Billy's quick learning curve. It brought a quiet satisfaction to see his former tormentor now diligently tending to the very shop that held their world-altering secret. Their shared duties often led to hushed conversations about the time machine, Ethan continuing to educate Billy on temporal mechanics and the intricacies of the shifting past. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to the boys, a different kind of negotiation was unfolding, laden with far more than just financial concerns. One crisp autumn evening, Mr. Abernathy had secretly arranged a dinner meeting with Thomas Pruitt, Ethan's father, at a quiet, old-fashioned diner near the state capitol building, a place far enough from the familiar neighborhood to ensure privacy. The air hung heavy with the scent of fried chicken and brewing coffee, but the tension at their small table was palpable, undergirded by the immense shared burden they both carried. Mr. Abernathy, his voice thin but firm, laid out his proposal. "Thomas, as you can see, I'm not getting any younger, and this shop is more than just a business, as you well know. It's a legacy, and it's time I thought about its future and the future of everything that comes with it." He paused, his gaze meeting Thomas's, which was already etched with a familiar understanding. "I want to bequeath the pawn shop to you, and then, in time, to Ethan, once he's finished with his education and ready to take the reins." Thomas was momentarily speechless, not from surprise at the pawn shop itself, but at the sheer weight of the implied responsibility. He was a science teacher, a man whose life revolved around logical structures and predictable outcomes, yet he now sat across from the guardian of an impossible machine. "Mr. Abernathy, that's an extraordinary trust, but I have my teaching, my responsibilities." He ran a hand through his graying hair. "And Ethan is only a freshman. Juggling that kind of management and everything else, it's a lot." Mr. Abernathy leaned forward, his eyes suddenly sharp, piercing through Thomas's hesitation. "I'm aware, Thomas, but you are precisely the man for this. Your mind, your understanding of complex mechanisms are invaluable, and you're eligible for early retirement in just 2 or 3 years, aren't you? That would give you ample time to transition, to oversee the shop fully, and to work alongside Ethan when he's ready. He knows the mechanics of the shop better than anyone, but he'll need your guidance for all the rest and for protecting what needs protecting." Thomas left the diner with the weight of the old man's words and the immense trust placed in him settling heavily on his shoulders. He was committed to this secret, to Ethan's path, but the reality of managing the pawn shop and its hidden workshop was a daunting yet increasingly inevitable prospect. Back in his own home, Billy was grappling with a different, more immediate crisis. He walked through the front door, the familiar scent of stale beer and his father's distant silence already a heavy presence. But tonight there was another sound, the soft, broken sound of his mother crying. He found Martha in the living room, huddled on the worn sofa, her face buried in her hands. "Mom?" Billy asked, his voice catching in his throat. He hadn't seen her cry in years, not like this. She looked up, her eyes red-rimmed and hollow. "Oh, Billy," she whispered, her voice raw. I don't know what to do. I can't tolerate it anymore. The silence, the neglect." Her gaze was distant, filled with years of unexpressed pain. "He's just gone. Even when he's here, I'm thinking of leaving, of separation." The words hit Billy like a physical blow. He had seen the historical roots of his father's anguish, the shattering loss that had transformed him. He had understood the cause in a way no one else could. But understanding didn't erase the effects. It didn't heal his mother's present-day despair. His father was still self-destructing, and now he was taking Martha with him. The weight of it settled on Billy, a chilling certainty that Walter Tipton, the broken man consumed by old sorrow, desperately needed some kind of intervention, or he would completely unravel, taking his remaining family with him. Billy found his father in the living room later that day, nursing a tumbler of amber liquid. The silence in the house was thick, oppressive, broken only by the clinking of ice. Martha was in the kitchen, a quiet sorrow about her. Billy's hands trembled slightly as he approached Walter. There was no going back now. He had to try. "Dad," Billy began, his voice surprisingly steady despite the tremor in his hands. Walter grunted, not looking up. I know why you hurt so much, and I know it's destroying us." Walter's head snapped up. His eyes narrowed. Dangerous. "You don't know anything, boy. Get out." His voice was a low growl, a familiar warning. "I do," Billy pressed on, his voice gaining strength, fueled by Martha's quiet suffering and the profound truths he'd witnessed in time. "I know about Clarabelle. I know what happened." Walter slowly set his glass down, his face a mask of disbelief and dawning fury. "You don't know her name. You don't know anything about her. This is a cruel joke." He pushed himself to his feet, looming over Billy. But Billy didn't back down. "I saw it. I saw her there, Dad. And I've seen what it's done to you. This poison, this grief, it's not just killing you. It's killing Mom. She's thinking of leaving you." The words hit Walter like a physical blow. His eyes, already narrowed, now widened in shock. He looked from Billy to the kitchen where Martha was, a raw, primal anguish contorting his face. The rage, the denial, the years of carefully constructed emotional walls. They crumbled in an instant. I can't," Walter choked out, his voice raw, barely a whisper. "I can't forget her. I don't know how. I don't know how to talk about it." He crumpled, sinking onto the sofa, his body racked with a grief that had festered for so many years. Tears, hot and unstoppable, streamed down his face, tears he hadn't shed for so long. It was a breakdown, deep and visceral, an admission to the truth he'd buried so fiercely. He was powerless, powerless to forget her, powerless to talk about it, powerless to stop the self-destruction. Billy watched him, a heartbreaking pity washing over him, now tinged with a fragile hope. His father was broken, yes, but for the first time he was open. He was finally feeling the full force of his pain, unshielded. The first step had been taken. Walter Tipton had finally acknowledged his unbearable loss. The destructive cycle that brought dishonor to Clarabelle's memory, the drinking, the neglect, the rage. Walter saw it now, through the prism of his own brokenness. He had to change. But what could truly help him? That night, Billy shared his father's raw confession with Ethan. Walter's admission of feeling powerless to forget or not knowing how to talk about it resonated deeply. It gave them a profound, desperate purpose. Their previous journey had been for understanding. This next one, if they chose to embark on it, would be for direct, desperate intervention. How could they give Walter the means to heal? The answer to where they would travel next suddenly felt incredibly close and terrifyingly complicated, for it meant going back to the source of his sorrow, to seek a whisper from the past. The end of Chapter 7.
Give it a like, will ya?
Frases em bloco de interesse para o capítulo 7. Chunk Phrases of Interest for Chapter 7. Número 1. A âncora firme. The steady anchor. The steady anchor. Esta frase em bloco se refere a uma fonte confiável e consistente de estabilidade ou suporte em uma situação desafiadora. This chunk phrase refers to a reliable and consistent source of stability or support in a challenging situation. Example português. Ethan era a âncora firme de Billy. Example English. Ethan was Billy's steady anchor. Ethan was Billy's steady anchor. Número 2. A curva de aprendizado. The learning curve. The learning curve. Esta frase em bloco se refere à velocidade com que alguém adquire novos conhecimentos ou habilidades. This chunk phrase refers to the rate at which someone acquires new knowledge or skills. Example, português. Billy demonstrou uma curva de aprendizado rápida. Example, English. Billy showed a quick learning curve. Billy showed a quick learning curve. Número 3. Garantir privacidade. To ensure privacy. To ensure privacy. Esta frase em bloco se refere a tomar medidas para manter algo em segredo. This chunk phrase refers to taking steps to keep something secret. Example português. Eles se encontraram em segredo para garantir privacidade. Example English. They met in secret to ensure privacy. They met in secret to ensure privacy. Número 4. Assumir o comando. To take the reins. To take the reins. Esta frase em bloco se refere ao ato de assumir controle ou liderança. This chunk phrase refers to the act of assuming control or leadership. Example, português. Ethan acabaria assumindo o comando. Example, English. Ethan would eventually take the reins. Ethan would eventually take the reins. Número 5. Inclinar-se para frente. To lean forward. To lean forward. Esta frase em bloco se refere a uma postura física que demonstra foco. This chunk phrase refers to a physical posture showing focus. Example, português. O Sr. Abernathy se inclinou para a frente para enfatizar. Example, English. Mr. Abernathy leaned forward to emphasize. Mr. Abernathy leaned forward to emphasize. Número 6. Os mecanismos complexos. The complex mechanisms. The complex mechanisms. Esta frase em bloco se refere a sistemas complexos ou arranjos de peças móveis projetados para executar uma função específica. This chunk phrase refers to intricate systems or arrangements of moving parts designed to perform a specific function. Example, português. Tomás entendia mecanismos complexos. Example, English. Thomas understood complex mechanisms. Thomas understood complex mechanisms. Número 7. A aposentadoria antecipada. The early retirement. The early retirement. Esta frase em bloco se refere à aposentadoria do trabalho mais cedo do que o esperado ou antes da idade típica de aposentadoria. This chunk phrase refers to retiring from work sooner than expected or before the typical age of retirement. Example, português. Thomas tinha direito à aposentadoria antecipada. Example, English. Thomas was eligible for early retirement. Thomas was eligible for early retirement. Número 8. A cerveja velha. The stale beer. The stale beer. Esta frase em bloco se refere à cerveja que perdeu seu frescor e sabor, muitas vezes desenvolvendo um gosto desagradável e insosso. This chunk phrase refers to beer that has lost its freshness and flavor, often developing an unpleasant, flat taste. Example, português. A casa cheirava a cerveja velha. Example, English. The house smelled of stale beer. The house smelled of stale beer. Número 9. Encolhido no sofá. Huddled on the sofa. Huddled on the sofa. Esta frase em bloco se refere a sentar ou deitar muito próximos uns dos outros, geralmente para conforto, aquecimento ou proteção. This chunk phrase refers to sitting or lying closely and tightly together, often for comfort, warmth, or protection. Example, português. Marta estava encolhida no sofá. Example, English. Martha was huddled on the sofa. Martha was huddled on the sofa. Número 10. Autodestruir-se. To self-destruct. To self-destruct. Esta frase em bloco se refere ao ato de se envolver em comportamentos ou padrões que são prejudiciais a si mesmo, física, emocional ou socialmente. This chunk phrase refers to the act of engaging in behaviors or patterns that are harmful to oneself, physically, emotionally, or socially. Example, português. Walter continuou a se autodestruir. Example, English. Walter continued to self-destruct. Walter continued to self-destruct. Número 11. Os muros emocionais. The emotional walls. The emotional walls. Esta frase em bloco se refere às barreiras psicológicas ou defesas que uma pessoa constrói para se proteger da dor emocional ou da vulnerabilidade. This chunk phrase refers to psychological barriers or defenses a person erects to protect themselves from emotional pain or vulnerability. Example: português. Seus muros emocionais ruíram. Example: English. His emotional walls crumbled. His emotional walls crumbled. Número 12. O ciclo destrutivo. The destructive cycle. The destructive cycle. Esta frase em bloco se refere a um padrão recorrente de comportamentos ou eventos negativos que causam danos ou prejuízos repetidamente. This chunk phrase refers to a recurring pattern of negative behaviors or events that repeatedly cause harm or damage. Example: português. Ele estava preso em um ciclo destrutivo. Example: English. He was trapped in a destructive cycle. He was trapped in a destructive cycle. O fim das frases em bloco de interesse para o capítulo 7. The end of chunk phrases of interest for chapter 7.
We hope that by listening to the story and reviewing the chunk phrases of interest, you've had a chance to increase your English vocabulary in an enjoyable way. If you enjoyed this chapter and want to continue your journey with Ethan and his time-hopping adventures, please subscribe to the Chunking to Fluency channel. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Feel free to share this video with anyone who might enjoy it or is learning English. And don't forget to give it a like. Finally, if you hit the notification bell icon, you'll be sure to know when the next chapter of time-hopping hero Ethan's First Leaps is released. Thanks again for listening, and we look forward to sharing more stories with you soon. Be blessed.